What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Got a really special video for you today. Over the weekend, I went up to the Michigan Blade Throwers range, and up there we were meeting to see if there was a interest in having a men's league. The women's league has been going on for many years up there. It's been very successful, and we wanted to see what kind of interest there would be in starting a men's league. But it was also a chance for me to see all of my Michigan Blade Thrower friends. And a few months back, they accepted me into a group called the Bowie Axe Mafia. We are all huge fans of old Tru Bal knives, specifically the Bowie Axe. Now, you may recognize this knife. Cold Steel ripped it off in the 80s and called it the Perfect Balance, which they still sell today. Excellent knife. There's just something about these old knives that just really I gravitate towards. And I'm a knife throwing nerd, not a throwing knife nerd specifically. And I know a lot about throwing knives, but it's always nice to get more information from, you know, the generation before me and people that have been around before me. So I had a chance to visit with Jim and Bill Bednarick, and they just recently acquired 23 Tru Bal knives from the 70s and 80s that have never been thrown. Mint condition. It's a little bit of a long video, but if you're into history of throwing knives, or you're just a knife junkie like I am, you'll like the video. Enjoy.
Everything he did.
Yeah,
I like.
but there's no hole in them.
I like
because
the,
that's
I like,
that
I
is
like
the
point
that
he
is
gave
the
because
old
I did
ones.
the same point, and I like
They're
this point.
shorter than
You know
I
what I'm
thought they
saying?
would be.
I
I thought so too, and they're a little narrower than I was
it's got a
expecting.
good balance,
And it's a
But
cool
they
looking
might be
knife.
a little
I
bit,
mean,
you
just
know,
straight
different.
up, it's a cool looking knife. That's what I like about it, because it's, you know, it's got the coffin handle. I
the
like
dirt
it's got
star.
the star,
Yeah,
it's got
these
that
are-
good point.
Those are
They're just hot.
It's a cool knife.
those
like-
Kelly.
I
Look
almost
at
feel
those
like
babies.
these,
Those are
Too
gonna
bad
be-
they're never gonna get thrown.
Yeah, those are
you
gonna be Jim's babies.
No,
They're too
Mike,
bad they're never
I'm
gonna get thrown. We get to touch them.
I'm
We're
fighting
good.
the urge to walk over there.
All right, so tell us a little bit about these knives. How'd you acquire them? Where'd they come from?
Jim.
Okay, so basically, most of these knives I have acquired individually through eBay and whatnot. Most of these and a couple of those were acquired, you know, basically, like I said, on eBay and whatnot. So I saw several postings on eBay about different Tru Bal knives, which are from Michigan. And I messaged this gentleman and I said, hey, you know, if you've got any more, we'd be interested in bringing them home. We like to bring them back to the state where they came from. And he messaged me, he says, my dad had unfortunately passed away and he was a collector and I have a whole bunch. So we ended up contacting them and we acquired the whole collection of 23 knives. So these and these and these and those and a couple of those down there are all from the collection. And these as well. So they were mint, never been thrown. He was a collector.
He had some Bowie axes that he threw, but his son kept them because they had sentimental value.
For sentimental
Sure.
value, because he threw them.
Because he threw them, and so he kept those. But all of these have never been thrown by anyone.
So going through what we got, so we have, these are model number 2s. This is ground by Harry McAvoy. So a little basic history. Harry McAvoy started the company in the 50s. Then when he passed away in the 90s, his son took it over, Steven. So and then now Bobby Bratton owns the company. He purchased it from Steven. So there's 3 different actual examples of Tru Bal knives on this table.
Yes.
So these are Bowie axes ground by Harry McAvoy himself. These were late in the game. These are late ones.
These are earlier.
Those are earlier. You can tell a lot from the rivets and the handle material too. Also, I have
And the sheets.
And the sheets. So this is a really old Model 2. If you want to see the difference, now see how the sheaths have changed over the years. This is fit, and the earliest ones were looped over.
Okay.
Like my Model 1. So this is a Model 1. This is a Model 1.
This is the Model 1.
That's a very old one. If you see how the sheath was looped over in the tubular rivets, that's
Now,
a very old one.
That's from when? What year?
This is probably
Probably the 50s,
50s.
early 60s.
Nice.
I would say early 60s.
And that's the only one that you have that has a hole in it. That's how you can tell it's
Because
old, right?
the
Because they
model
changed it.
The Model 1 was produced by Harry, and I think that design was sold to Tru Bal West. Now Bobby Branton has gotten the rights to reproduce this model because this was very, very knocked off. I think Olsen did a knockoff of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also some of the other Asian companies too did copies of this. This is very, very, very copy pattern. Also, the model number 2 is very copied as well. So basically, you can tell a lot from the handles and the sheaths. So some of the oldest material, if you can tell, is this very hard. It's not a Bakelite, but it's very hard and
It's
it
like a
chips easy.
vulcanized rug.
It's old.
Yeah, it's like a vulcanized.
This one's
Fiber.
also very old as well. With that, it's a little different material. It's almost like two-tone. That's quite old as well. But you can also tell the sheaths get mixed up over the years. But I think a lot of the times they don't get mixed up unless they're collectors that are, in their own collection that are getting mixed up.
Yeah.
But so these are all Model 2s.
And that's how you can age them, is by the sheaths, correctly?
In the handle
Right.
material
And
as
the
well.
handle- okay.
And also, too, if you have enough examples, you can also kind of with the grinds on them as well. So these Model 2s,
See how these are ground like a live blade? These are ground like a live blade. These are ground.
has a shoulder.
This knife is sharp.
Yeah, very sharp.
This knife is sharp. This knife is also sharp.
Did he grind most of them sharp, or was it?
So it depended on what the customer wanted.
Okay.
If the customer wanted a knife for a field knife, because the Model 2 has always been advertised as the Bowie axe, you can use it as a camp knife, you can use it as a field knife. So he ground these like this. Now these were ground as throwers. The grind is not as high. He doesn't have a conventional plunge line like these do. This
Right.
is what you would expect out of a knife that you ground to be sharpened, to be used as a knife. This was ground as a throwing knife.
And you can also look at the tips too. This is what we jokingly call this the frog nose, but it's basically reinforced because it comes to a less acute tip, so it's stronger because that's more of a throwing knife.
Right. So you don't, if you have lateral stress on the frog nose, you're not going to get the point to snap off. Even
Right.
though these are beefy knives,
And if you
you can damage that point if they're really, really
now
pointy.
see how these are sharpened more and they have a more acute point.
Yes.
Right.
So this is a
thrower.
trade-off because of the functionality that he was looking for that customer, because they are truly custom knives. You know, he was a protege of Randall Knives in Florida. Randall wrote, the foreword for his books. So they were good friends. In fact, Bobby put a picture up of some Bowie axes that were made by Randall Knives that have guards that were made by, they're Randall Knives marked, but they're Bowie axe patterns,
Okay.
right? That they were I believe they were for NASA, for survival knives for astronauts, because Bo Randall made those. Randall Knives made astronaut knives, right? At a certain point.
That's an interesting
Right,
connection.
because of the military background of Randall Knives have always been very heavily into the military. If a military person wants a good knife, they buy a Randall, right? And that's the history of it. But
So this is interesting. We'll talk about the Model 2 for just another hot second, and then we're going to move on down the line. So this is a Model 2 ground by Stephen McAvoy. So it is a little different. He grinds all the way from one end to the other, to my knowledge.
yes,
If you see how these are, the field knife,
and
this
even
is
though
a thrower.
yes, and even though he doesn't grind it back, even though this is not ground to be a live blade, he still has the approximation of a plunge line.
Sure.
He starts here. And on this one, it's ground like this.
It's all
the way. I
Yes.
like that a lot. Looks
I do
cool.
too. And this is a Mountain Boy that was also ground by Steven, right?
So you can tell, the
can-
grinds are also a way to age them
tell,
and
yeah.
tend to
Right.
tell.
Okay.
Right.
And I know for people that know me well and close, we're crazy about rivets.
Right.
Rivets are also a determining factor too, because some of the older knives, you can tell the rivets were peened more.
And domed more.
This one's from
Yeah.
the 60s. You see how peened and domed those are?
They're very
As time
smooth.
went on,
They're very smooth.
like these are very late hairy knives. These are not peened.
So you think this was rescaled?
No, absolutely
No,
not.
that's an original. That's original.
Absolutely not. No,
Nope,
that
original.
is. This is the oldest knife on the table for sure.
Approximate the age on that, Jim.
Early 60s.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Early 60s.
Early 60s.
So we're talking 60 years ago.
Yeah.
That throwing knife
Yes.
was made.
This is
That's
the oldest knife on the table by far.
That's the sign of quality too. You could still throw that
Correct.
right now.
Oh, I still throw
absolutely.
it. Yep. So those are Model 2s. So then we'll go over here. I've got all the different models lined up in by not quote unquote age, but kind of by age. So this is a Model 1, which we've already talked about, very old. Model 2, here's another Bowie axe. This one actually came from Honolulu, Hawaii. So this is the furthest away acquisition that we've brought back to Michigan. This thing is so sharp. Somebody sharpened this like an old school where they took the stone and sharpened
really?
it, sharpened it, and sharpened it, and sharpened it.
And it is razor sharp.
This is scary. I will never throw this one either.
Yes, it is razor sharp.
So that's a Model 2. So then this is a Model 3, which you do not see these very often. This is what's considered like a game getter. This is very short. This is very sharp.
Unique.
Very unique. Also, if you, once again,
You can see how the
see
rivets,
the rivets
were
are done. And this is a weird interim sheath too, because they transitioned from this style sheath with a loop to then, grab me that other old Bowie axe. So then you can look at this, still fit, but more of a cut.
Okay.
So this is the oldest style. This is also the oldest style, but we'll get to this one in a second. So that's a Model 3, okay? Model 2, Model 1. Okay. So then this, like I said, this is like a game getter, real short, throws right from the line actually. It's kind of neat. You do not want to throw most of these knives from the blade either. So this is a Model 4. This went through 2 different iterations. This is a 4A. This is the original. I don't have a 4B on the table, but a 4B is fatter. It's thicker. This is a half spin knife. This is like a military, like it's sharp too. Okay. That's why you got to throw it like that.
Because a lot of the people that were involved in knife throwing in the old days, they all threw from the blade. They threw because they were throwing bayonets.
Sharp.
And that's why they refer to it as military half spin, because if you're throwing a bayonet has a pommel more like this, you would not necessarily throw it well.
Exactly.
Because the pommel is going to stop you from having a
and
proper
bayonets
release.
throw amazingly, by the way.
Yes, but if you throw them like this, you know what I'm saying, then you can throw it, and you can throw it by the blade. So that's why that's why people refer to it as military half spin, even though it wasn't, traditionally, it wasn't taught in the military, but guys threw in the military.
So we're gonna skip not ahead over here, but I'm putting it in line with this. 1, 2, 3, 4A. Then this is a Rifleman. This is a Model 6. These went through a bunch of iterations, to my understanding.
Yes.
I don't know where this is at in the iteration of them, but these are hairy knives. And a color sheath we've not seen before.
Yeah.
These I think are later, because you look at the rivets. Remember, what was I telling you? Look at the rivets. See how they're not domed and peened as much?
Yeah.
So this is probably a very late Rifleman. These were discontinued. They weren't around for very long. I think these were late 70s, early 80s tops.
Okay.
This is a Model 7. And I don't, like I said, don't know what iteration it is, but it is somewhere in there.
And that knife is brand new. It's never been thrown, correct?
Never been
old
thrown.
stock, as they would say.
Never been thrown.
Never been thrown. It's
Again,
collectors.
approximate the year for me.
It's hard to
it's
approximate
a late
on that
hairy.
one.
This is
It's a late hairy.
Okay.
But the
Just
thing
like
is,
these.
but you got to understand too, in the history of Tru Bal's knife, not to say that he had tons and tons of blanks, buckets and buckets of blanks. And he might have not had an order for a Model 7 or a 6 or a 4 or whatever it was. So it just sat there. It could have been stamped or cut out or who knows when, but it was finished at a later date.
Right.
Packed in oil so it would stay. And, Okay.
So Model 6, that's the Rifleman. So then this is a much later knife number. This is of 70. This is another eBay find. This was from a collector, I'm sure. Model 70. Never been thrown, probably won't ever get thrown. Now, the rivets are a little more domed and peened, so I think this is a little bit older one. Look at the sheath, though, too. The sheaths are another thing that we can talk about later, but we'll just get through the knives right now. So this is a Model 70, which is still produced today. So this is a model, where's the Model 70 from Stevens? So this is a Model 70 ground by Harry. This is a Model 70 ground by Steven. Do you see the difference in the blades?
Yes.
The frog nose.
It's the frog nose again.
It's this for strength.
It's the frog nose again. Also, look at the rivets. Those were ground. Those were hammered.
Okay.
But if you look and see, there is a little shape difference there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So
A little bit.
a little bit. So that's a 70, and then that's, like I said, that one's ground by Harry. This one's ground by Steven. We know for a fact.
Right. Because this collector marked the stuff when they purchased it from Harry. It's not marked, so we know that these are harried, and that these are Stevens, because when he purchased them from Stevens in his collection, he made sure and marked that they were.
That's cool that they did that.
By,
Someone took the time to do
yes,
that.
They were manufactured by Steven.
Yeah.
So then now we get to everyone's fan favorite, the Model 76 that was made for the Bicentennial. This one is a very old one. We think this is really early on.
Yeah.
If you look, it's got the weirdest, interesting handle material. It's almost like it's layered.
Yeah.
And once again, your rivets are peened more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got that interim sheath. But this is part of that collection that we got. This is a very late one, but this is really interesting. Now look at the differences in those knives.
What's this knife called?
This is the Model 76.
Okay.
This was made for the Bicentennial.
Yes.
This is, or they call it the Battle Dirk, I think is another name for it.
Okay.
Or yeah. No.
No, throwing dirt.
Throwing Dirk, sorry.
Throwing dirt. Okay.
So this is a really early one. This is a really late one. But look at the difference in the size of the blades.
Yeah.
It's just interesting how this has got a lot more of that.
And also,
lobe.
and also, look at the orientation of the logo.
yeah.
This is more the way that was always done, right? This is in line with how they were produced.
Mm-hmm.
This one is actually different than all of the rest of them because of the orientation.
It's
of
very
this.
unique. You don't normally see them like that. That's different.
And you can actually feel the weight difference.
Yeah, there is
in
a
your
weight
hand
difference.
Yes.
There is a
too.
weight
Big-
difference
yeah.
in this one.
And these have never been thrown, correct?
Never been thrown.
They are
Nope.
incredible. Those are some of my favorite on the table.
Yep.
And the sheath, we'll talk about the sheath for 2 seconds. I've never ever seen this style of sheath before. This is very
Yes.
unique. Very unique. It has a welt. You don't see a welt in any of these other knife sheaths.
Nope.
Nor do you have this loop like this either, like that style. This must have been, I don't know if I was told that possibly it was a custom one-off, that they wanted a different style of sheath for.
I really like it.
I've never seen
Right,
it
and
before.
because these knives were custom, you could order them anyway. If you wanted them, if you look at the back end of the handle, even in the Bowie axis, you can see a difference depending on what their intended purpose for. We don't have one, but there is at least one of them that we have among us that has a lanyard hole in the tail end of it, and the handle is wider because it was designed to be used as a field tool, right? So you could contact Harry and you could order it the way you wanted it, right? So that's probably what was done with this. Someone wanted these and they wanted them with something different, so that's
I
what
suspect they
got.
all come square, like the blanks were cut probably square, and then he tapered them for throwing.
Yeah. Hey
With
guys.
Bowie
Hey guys.
axes.
Just want to let you know we're coming up on 17 minutes. So.
Okay. So, this is the Model 91. This is different handle style. This is called the Stinger Bowie. This is neat.
That's awesome.
This throws really cool.
Lots of character.
Yeah.
And then this is the Mountain Bowie. So this is a Mountain Bowie. These are ground by Steven. These are Steven knives. The Mountain Bowie, the Model 94, and then this is a Model 94 that was made by Bobby Branton, who owns the company now. He's doing something different he's doing a G10 handle and a tubular stainless steel
I
rivet.
love it.
Really
I love
cool.
that.
really nice.
cool.
And when I ordered this from him, he gave me the option of the traditional style or this style, and I really wanted to try this style, and I really like it.
Have you had any problems with them coming loose or anything like that?
I haven't thrown it enough to beat it up,
right.
but I don't think that you would ever have a problem.
I don't think so either.
Because what he does is he sets them.
Yeah.
You can see where he sets them. He sets them just like he does on a lot of the other designs that he manufactured. He did this handle all along, and I doubt you'd ever have a problem with it.
I don't think so either.
I mean, literally. And if you did, you would just probably just take a center punch, put one underneath it, put it
Yeah.
on top of it, and hit it,
Oh,
and then
flare
it
it
would,
out, yeah.
and then it would flare it again.
We skipped ahead here. We actually jumped. We should have put this one in the middle. This is 79. This is the Sport Pro. This is a very iconic shape.
I'm sure a lot of people will recognize this shape.
Yep, knocked off by cold steel.
Yeah.
So those are the originals. And those are ground by Steven.
Those are cool as hell too.
What hasn't been covered yet, Jim?
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for showing these. They're incredible. How many knives on this table have never been thrown?
23 of them.
God.
23.
This just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen in the knife throwing world.
Yeah, I want a set so bad, but you know, I'll never throw them. They're pristine. So thank you guys.
They were made to be thrown. Though.
I understand, but that's a piece of history.
Yes, it's a piece of history that was made to be thrown. So on one hand, it would be good to throw them respectfully, but not break them or beat them.
Yeah,
up,
understood. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. It's an incredible collection, and thanks for all the information. I really appreciate it.